The shocking reveal: the galaxy had always been a place of order and control. The Galactic Empire ruled with an iron fist, its reach stretching to every corner of space. No rebellion had ever stood a chance against them. For centuries, the Empire had crushed any threat to its power, leaving no room for the underdog to rise. They believed that no one could ever challenge them, and they were right until now. It started with a single event: a small fleet of ships, almost unnoticed, dropped out of hyperspace near a border system of the Empire. At first, the Empire's radar didn't even pick up on them. They were too small, too insignificant. That's what the Empire thought, at least. But as the ships moved closer to the system's capital planet, the silence broke. A single, terrifying signal was sent out across the galaxy. A signal unlike anything the Empire had ever seen before. On board the Genesis, Commander Carter stood before his crew, watching as their target appeared on the screen. The Empire's outpost, one of many, was barely a dot on the map, a small, unimportant location in the grand scheme of the galaxy. Yet it was here that humanity would send its message. They were no longer the forgotten planet. They were no longer a weak species to be pushed aside. Humanity had a secret. They had been preparing for this moment. We've waited long enough, Carter said, his voice filled with quiet determination. It's time they know who we are. Sophia, his second-in-command, looked at him, her face serious. You're sure about this, Commander? We've never shown this level of force before. The Empire will respond, and we won't have the numbers to fight back. Carter turned to face her, a grim smile crossing his face. This isn't just about numbers. It's about sending a message that they can't ignore. We have something they'll never expect. At that moment, the crew watched as the countdown timer reached 0, humanity's ace in the hole. The dark matter warship powered up and prepared to strike. The ship, once thought to be an impossible idea, had become their greatest weapon. This ship, powered by dark matter energy, was unlike any other in the galaxy. Its power was limitless, and its speed unparalleled. As the warship's weapons charged, Carter's fingers hovered over the controls. This is it, he muttered. Time to send the message. In the vast halls of the Empire, General Kor, a seasoned military leader, sat in his command center, reviewing the reports from the outer systems. The day seemed routine until the alert came through. A sudden, unexpected fleet had entered the system's space. At first, it was dismissed as a minor anomaly, perhaps a stray ship or a lost rebel vessel, but the intensity of the signal they sent changed everything. General Kor's face tightened as the message reached him. What is this? A single ship? He read the transmission again, his mind racing. A human warship, powered by dark matter. The thought seemed absurd. The humans had never shown this kind of technology, and yet here it was, sending waves of energy through the Empire's systems. What kind of ship could generate this much power? Send all fleets to intercept, Kor ordered. This cannot be allowed to continue. The humans have played their hand, and now they will pay for their audacity. But as the Empire scrambled to respond, the dark matter warship fired. The blast tore through the defenses of the outpost with terrifying precision. The shockwave from the explosion rippled through space, sending tremors across the galaxy. The weapon's power was beyond anything the Empire had ever faced. The once unstoppable force of the Empire was brought to its knees by a single attack. Back on the Genesis, the crew watched in silence as their message echoed across the galaxy. The Empire had been caught off guard, their defenses shattered in an instant, but Carter knew the war was far from over. This was only the beginning. We've done it, Sophia said, her voice filled with awe. We've sent our message to the Empire. They know we're not just some insignificant planet anymore. Carter nodded, but there was no joy in his expression. We've made them notice us. But the real fight begins now. We're not just going to survive. We're going to make sure the Empire never forgets who we are. As the crew prepared for the next steps in their plan, Carter couldn't help but feel the weight of what they had just started. The Empire had been warned, but the galaxy would soon see that humanity wasn't just a forgotten species. It was a force to be reckoned with. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, the Empire's leaders were in disarray. The unexpected attack had thrown them off balance. A single ship, powered by dark matter, had destroyed one of their key outposts, and yet, this was just the beginning. The message was clear. Humanity was not weak. Humanity had power, and the Empire's grip on the galaxy had just been shattered. The galaxy was no longer what it once was. The tables had turned, and in the darkness of space, the Empire began to realize the true cost of underestimating humanity. The Empire's response, a rising thread. Echoes of the dark matter warship's attack still reverberated across the galaxy, leaving an indelible mark on the minds of those who had witnessed it. A single strike had crippled one of the Empire's strongest outposts, sending ripples through the Empire's vast network. The shock was undeniable. Humanity had been underestimated for far too long. Now, the question on every mind was, what else does humanity have hidden away? General Kor paced back and forth in his command room, his mind racing. The reports flooded in from every direction. He had never seen the Empire so disoriented. His officers were scrambling, trying to make sense of the sudden onslaught. A warship powered by dark matter? It was a concept so far beyond anything the Empire had ever encountered that it seemed impossible. And yet, here they were, facing an enemy they couldn't comprehend. The humans, have they truly unlocked the power of dark matter? Kor asked, his voice steady but laced with disbelief. Yes, General, replied one of his officers. Her eyes glued to the flickering screens. The energy readings from their ship are off the charts. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. Their technology has evolved rapidly. We believe they've been hiding it for a long time. Kor's eyes narrowed as he stared at the holographic display of the Genesis, humanity's flagship. The ship wasn't just a symbol of rebellion, it was the weapon that would determine the future of the galaxy. Humanity had shown that they could strike with unparalleled force, but now, Kor had to prepare for the inevitable retaliation. We need to wipe them out before they can grow any stronger, Kor said with a cold edge in his voice. No more hesitation, deploy the fleet. We're going to show humanity what happens when they challenge the Empire. Meanwhile, on the Genesis, Carter and his crew had been watching the Empire's reaction closely. The victory had been a moment of triumph, but Carter knew it was fleeting. The Empire would not stand idly by. They would come for them with everything they had, and humanity would be ready. We've made them feel the sting of our power, Carter said, his gaze fixed on the starry horizon. But this is only the beginning. The Empire's forces are vast, and they won't stop until they've destroyed us. Sophia nodded, her expression grim. The Empire will strike back. They won't let this go. We've shown them what we can do, but we need more. We can't fight the full might of their fleets head on. We need to be smarter. Carter turned to her, his face hardening with determination. We don't just fight for survival. We fight for a future. The Empire has ruled for too long, and now we have the chance to take it all back. We won't hide anymore. We'll make them come to us. The crew gathered around, each member focused on their mission. They were no longer the underdogs. They had shown the galaxy that humanity had the power to turn the tide, but now, they had to face the consequences. The Empire was coming, and it was time to prepare for the greatest battle of their lives. Across the galaxy, the Empire mobilized. They had underestimated humanity before, but they would never make that mistake again. The full strength of their fleets was being brought to bear, and they would crush Earth's rebellion with ruthless efficiency. General Kor knew that the only way to secure the Empire's future was to eliminate humanity's growing power before it could spread. Gather all available forces, Kor commanded. We will launch a full-scale offensive. Humanity will fall, and the Genesis will be nothing more than a pile of debris. But even as Kor issued his orders, a sense of unease settled over him. Humanity's weapon was unlike anything he had ever seen. And though the Empire was formidable, they had never faced an enemy that fought with such determination. The Genesis had proven that the tables could be turned, and the Empire was no longer the invincible force it once was. Back on the Genesis, Carter stood before the crew, his face resolute. They had already taken the fight to the Empire, but now, it was time to strike at the heart of the Empire's power. We've shown them that we're not afraid, Carter said, his voice steady. But the real war is just beginning. We have allies in the outer systems, but we need more. The Empire has been too powerful for too long. Now, we need to take the fight to their doorstep. Sophia turned to him, her eyes filled with determination. We'll need more firepower. We've seen what the Empire can do when they're ready. We can't underestimate them. Carter nodded. I know, but we have something they don't. We have the will to fight for our freedom, and we have a weapon they can't possibly understand. Humanity's strength is not in numbers, it's in our spirit, and that's something the Empire will never be able to defeat. The crew gathered around, ready to carry out Carter's plan. They had already taken the first step, but the journey ahead would be the most dangerous yet. The Empire was coming, and they would stop at nothing to crush humanity's rebellion. But humanity had shown they were not afraid to stand up to the most powerful force in the galaxy. They had proven that they were ready to fight for their future. As the human fleet prepared to face the Empire's oncoming assault, the galaxy watched in awe. The Empire had always been a symbol of power and dominance, but humanity had shown them that even the greatest empires could fall. The real question now was, would the galaxy choose to stand with the Empire or with humanity? The fate of the galaxy was on the line, and the war for freedom was about to reach its climax. The galaxy watches a new era approach as the galaxy held its breath. The war between the Empire and humanity had evolved into something unprecedented. Once just a distant rebellion, humanity's audacity had stunned the galaxy. Their dark matter warships, A force so powerful they could tear through the mightiest fleets in the blink of an eye, had brought even the most powerful empires to their knees. But while the battle had begun, the ultimate confrontation had yet to unfold. On the Genesis, Commander Carter stood with his crew, looking out at the stars as the ship approached the heart of the Empire's vast space. The command deck was filled with tension, the hum of machinery and the soft murmur of preparations filling the air. They were heading directly for the Empire's core, a mission that could change the fate of every planet in the galaxy. "We're closing in," Sophia said, her voice steady as she watched the readouts on the screen. "The Empire is on high alert. We can't sneak past them this time." Carter nodded, his face set with resolve. "We're not sneaking in, we're making our mark. The Empire has destroyed too much, taken too many lives, we're taking the fight." To them, this is more than just a military mission. This is about reclaiming what's ours. And we do it together. As the Genesis and the growing fleet of humanity's warships neared the heart of the Empire, the message had spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Earth's victory had been felt in every corner of the galaxy, especially in the outer systems. Formerly oppressed planets, once under the iron grip of the Empire, were now beginning to rise. Rebellion sparked across the galaxy, but not all reactions were welcoming. While some systems had risen to join humanity's cause, others still viewed Earth's sudden rise as a threat. Those who had long enjoyed the benefits of the Empire's rule were nervous, unsure of what humanity's victory meant for their place in the galaxy. "We have to be ready for more than just the Empire," Carter said, looking to his crew. "There will be systems that will fear us, systems that will challenge us. Even though we are the new force in the galaxy, we've shown what we can do, but we have to make sure the galaxy knows we fight for the future of every world, not just Earth." As the human fleet entered the Empire's controlled space, the Empire's reaction was swift. The Empire's leaders had been cautious at first, but now they understood that humanity's rise was not just a passing rebellion, it was a movement that could alter the balance of power in the galaxy forever. General Core, still reeling from the damage humanity had inflicted, was watching the movements of the human fleet with unease. He could no longer see humanity as a nuisance. They had power, and that power had made them a target. If the Empire didn't act now, humanity would only grow stronger. But the question still burned in Core's mind: what else does Earth have hidden? The dark matter warships, once thought to be the stuff of legends, had changed everything. The Empire's might was unmatched, but the power humanity wielded now was a force that no one could predict. Core knew he had to stop them before they could build an unstoppable rebellion. There was no room for mistakes. He couldn't afford to let the galaxy slip from the Empire's grasp. "Prepare the fleet," Core ordered, his voice cutting through the command room. "We will meet them head-on, no more hesitation. We'll show them the true might of the Empire." Meanwhile, back on the Genesis, Carter's face was calm but filled with purpose. He knew the battle ahead wouldn't be easy. The Empire wasn't going to fold just because humanity had a new weapon. They would fight to keep control of the galaxy, and humanity would have to prove once again that they were a force not to be underestimated. "We've shown the galaxy that we're not just survivors. We've proven that we are leaders," Carter said, looking out at the fleet. "But now we must show them that we fight not only for Earth, but for the future of the galaxy." Sophia approached Carter, her voice serious. "The Empire will strike first. We have to be ready for everything they throw at us." Carter nodded. "We will be." This battle isn't just about taking back control. It's about showing the galaxy that no empire, no matter how powerful, can hold down those who are willing to fight for freedom. The dark matter warships were just the beginning. Now we build a future together. As the Genesis and the fleet moved forward, the galaxy began to brace for impact. Systems that had been silent for so long were stirring. Humanity's victory had sparked something more than rebellion. It had sparked hope. It was a hope that had been absent for too long. A hope that the galaxy could finally be free from the grip of the Empire. But as the humans pushed forward, they realized that freedom was never easily won. There were still forces in the galaxy that would resist, forces that would fight for the status quo. The final showdown was approaching. The Empire would not go down without a fight. But humanity had a new strength, one that would push them to do whatever it took to create the future they had fought for. The hidden front, the galaxy's dividias, the war between humanity and the Empire intensified. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The Genesis and its fleet continued their path toward the heart of the Empire, their weapons ready and their resolve unshaken. But as humanity moved forward, the political and military landscape of the galaxy shifted in ways they hadn't fully anticipated. Not all worlds saw humanity's rise as a beacon of hope. For some, the Empire had been a stabilizing force. They had been content to stay in the Empire's shadow, profiting from its dominance. And the sudden emergence of humanity as a rival superpower was unsettling. These systems, once quiet and compliant under the Empire's rule, now found themselves torn between two forces. Would they stand with the Empire or align with the new human-led resistance? In secret, these systems began forming alliances, a covert network of power that sought to weaken humanity's position. These factions, though not as powerful as the Empire, were a threat in their own right. They had the resources, the political clout, and the ambition to create a third force in the galaxy, one that could potentially fracture humanity's hard-won unity. Back on the Genesis, Commander Carter was aware of the potential dangers. Though he had no way of knowing how deeply the divisions had already spread. It's not just the Empire we're facing, Sophia said, her voice tense as she reviewed the latest reports. There's a growing network of systems who are not happy with the way things are going. They're aligning themselves with the remnants of the Empire. It's a shadow war, but it's spreading fast. Carter's eyes narrowed as he studied the data. We thought the Empire was our only enemy, but it looks like they've been sowing seeds of dissent in the galaxy for years. These factions, they're a wild card. If we're not careful, they could tip the balance. Sophia continued, they've started to fund independent militias, arm them. We're looking at small skirmishes breaking out across the outer systems. It's spreading like wildfire. Carter's mind raced. These factions weren't the Empire, but they could be just as dangerous. A divided galaxy was a galaxy that could easily fall back under the Empire's grip. If humanity was to have a future, they needed to unify the galaxy, not just defeat the Empire. We need to act quickly, Carter said, his voice steady. We have to bring those who are undecided into our fold. They can't be allowed to remain neutral. We'll offer them a chance to join a new order, one built on cooperation, not tyranny. If we don't take the lead now, we risk losing everything we've fought for across the galaxy. The message from humanity was being heard in unexpected places. Some worlds, fearing the chaos that would follow, chose to stand with the Empire. They still believed that the Empire's order was preferable to the unknown of humanity's rise. They reasoned that without the Empire, the galaxy would fall into anarchy. These systems were not large enough to wage war on their own, but they were significant enough to influence others. The largest of these factions, a coalition of several industrial planets known as the Syndicate, began to organize. Their leaders, once quiet under the Empire's rule, now had the resources and manpower to challenge humanity's growing influence. And in the shadows of this growing resistance, the Empire was not idle. While their fleets were engaged with humanity's forces, their spies and operatives infiltrated these factions, offering promises of power and protection in exchange for loyalty. The Empire's web of influence stretched far and wide, and it was starting to pull the galaxy back into a web of conflict. Back on the Genesis, Carter understood the weight of the task at hand. He had come so far, but now, more than ever, he realized that the war wasn't just about defeating the Empire. It was about rebuilding the galaxy into something better. Humanity had proven its strength, but their next challenge was to win the hearts and minds of the galaxy. We've already shown them what we can do on the battlefield, Carter said to Sophia. But we need to show them what we stand for. We need to prove that we're not just taking power, we're offering something better. A future without tyranny, without fear. It's the only way to stop the galaxy from slipping back into the Empire's grip. Sophia nodded, her expression resolute. We need to send the right message. The war with the Empire is far from over, but it's not just about destroying their forces. It's about creating alliances. If we fail to unify the galaxy, the same darkness that the Empire spread will return. It's our job to stop that. Carter's eyes shone with a quiet fire. Then we make our stand. Not just with our weapons, but with our values. We show the galaxy what true leadership looks like. The struggle for the future of the galaxy had entered a new phase. Humanity had won battles, but the real challenge was now the political and social war. It was no longer just about military might, it was about hearts and minds. The galaxy was fractured, and only unity could secure humanity's future. With the Empire's forces slowly being driven back, the galaxy's future lay in the hands of those willing to take a stand. The Empire would not give up easily, but neither would humanity. The Genesis and its fleet would carry the weight of the future. And Carter knew that every decision they made would shape the galaxy for generations to come. As the galaxy began to divide, humanity found itself standing at a crossroads. Would they become the rulers of a new era of peace and prosperity? Or would they fall victim to the same divisions and lies that had destroyed the Empire? Only time would tell, but one thing was certain: humanity would not back down. They had already proven that, and the galaxy was watching. Asterisk, a new threat emerges. Betrayal from within. The battle for the galaxy had taken an unexpected turn. As humanity's forces grew stronger and their allies rallied, a new shadow began to rise. The Empire's remnants were not the only threat humanity faced. In the heart of the newly formed resistance, a dangerous element had begun to take root. It wasn't the enemy fleets or their weapons that now posed the greatest risk. It was betrayal from within. Commander Carter stood before the holographic map of the galaxy, his mind running over the latest reports. The war had shifted in their favor, but now something more insidious was happening. While most of the outer systems had aligned with humanity, a few of their own people had begun to make decisions that didn't fit with the vision of peace and cooperation they were fighting for. Some factions within the human alliance had begun to pursue their own agendas that could shatter everything they had worked for. "Carter, you need to see this," Sophia said. Breaking his concentration, her voice was urgent and her face betrayed a rare hint of concern. She handed him a data pad, and as Carter scanned the details, his expression darkened. One of their own allies, a powerful industrial system known as Solara, had begun to operate in secrecy, though they had pledged loyalty to the human cause. Recent communications suggested they were working with the remnants of the Empire. Solara had begun secretly arming itself, preparing to create a fleet of its own. Carter clenched his jaw, struggling to contain the growing frustration. "I thought we had unified the galaxy. These worlds were supposed to be free of this kind of division." Sophia's eyes narrowed. "This is more than just a disagreement. Solara's growing influence could destabilize everything. They've been quietly gathering resources and strengthening their military. And we suspect they've made a deal with the Empire's loyalists in exchange for advanced technology." Carter stood still for a moment, processing the implications of the news. Solara was no small player. If they turned on humanity now, their strength would rival any fleet the Empire had ever commanded. The new coalition was fragile, and a split now could bring everything crashing down. Humanity's fragile victory was in danger of being undone by internal betrayal. "We can't let this happen," Carter said, his voice firm. "We need to confront them before they get any stronger. If we don't, we risk everything." Meanwhile, on Solara's homeworld, the leaders of the Solara system convened in a dimly lit room. The high-ranking officials stood around a table, their faces masked with tension and ambition. They had been playing both sides, secretly making deals with the remnants of the Empire in exchange for power and security. They saw humanity's rise not as a new era of peace, but as a threat to their own dominance. Their leader, Governor Virek, stood at the head of the table, his cold eyes scanning the room. "Humanity has become too powerful. The time to act is now. We cannot allow them to rule the galaxy. They're too inexperienced, too idealistic. They will crumble under the weight of their own ambition, but they have the dark matter warships." One of the officials interjected, his voice laced with uncertainty. "They could crush us in a single strike. If we provoke them." Governor Virek's expression was unflinching. "If we don't act now, we'll be crushed first. The Empire is gone, but the power we once had is still within our grasp. We just need to take it back. We will unite the loyalists and use their technology to build an army that humanity cannot defeat." His words were met with murmurs of agreement. Solara's plans had already begun. The wheels of betrayal had been set in motion, and soon, the galaxy would face a new threat, one that came not from the Empire, but from within the human resistance itself. Back on the Genesis, Carter received the disturbing news. Solara's betrayal had been confirmed. They were building a fleet, and their intentions were clear. They were preparing for war. "We have no choice," Carter said, his voice cold. "We go after Solara. We strike before they can build their forces. If we don't, we risk losing everything we've fought for." Sophia looked at him, understanding the gravity of the situation. "If we attack now, we'll risk alienating the other systems. Some of them still trust Solara. This could cause an all-out civil war." Carter's eyes hardened. "I'm aware of that, but what choice do we have? We cannot allow a rogue faction to destroy everything we've built. We show the galaxy that betrayal won't be tolerated and that we'll fight for the future we promised." As the human fleet prepared for its confrontation with Solara, the galaxy held its breath. The rise of humanity had been seen as a beacon of hope, a new beginning for a galaxy tired of oppression. But now, cracks were beginning to show. Betrayal had already seeped into their ranks, and the question was no longer just about defeating the Empire. It was about ensuring the survival of the new order. Solara's betrayal would have far-reaching consequences. A war between former allies threatened to tear apart the fragile peace humanity had built. If humanity was to survive, they needed to act decisively and quickly. The stakes had never been higher. In the vast reaches of space, the balance of power hung by a thread. Humanity's future was uncertain, and the Empire was no longer the only threat. The true battle was now within their own ranks, and only one side could emerge victorious. The gathering storm. Betrayal unleashed. The galaxy was teetering on the edge of chaos. Humanity, once an insignificant species in the eyes of the galaxy's great powers, had risen to become a force that no one could ignore. Their victory over the Empire was a testament to their strength, resilience, and sheer willpower, but now, a new threat was emerging, one that came not from their enemies, but from their own ranks. The rebellion against the Empire had brought many factions together, but it had also exposed the deep fractures within humanity's alliances. Solara, a powerful industrial system that had once pledged loyalty to Earth's cause, had been secretly making deals with the remnants of the Empire, and now, they were preparing to launch a war of their own, not to defeat the Empire but to seize control of the galaxy for themselves. Commander Carter stood before the fleet, his face a mask of determination. He knew the situation had changed. The threat they now faced wasn't just about defeating a galactic empire. It was about stopping a civil war that could destroy everything they had built. Solara's betrayal had shaken humanity to its core. If they didn't act quickly, the new galaxy they had fought so hard to create could fall apart before it even began. "We can't afford to wait any longer," Carter said, his voice resolute. "We've been forced into a corner. Solara thinks they can destroy everything we've worked for. They think they can break our unity. It's time to send them a message. They won't forget." Sophia stepped forward, her expression tight with concern. "Carter, if we move on Solara now, we risk fracturing our coalition. There are other systems that still trust them. We could lose our alliances, and the galaxy could fall back into the chaos we fought so hard to escape." Carter's gaze hardened. "We can't let betrayal stand. We've seen the Empire's cruelty. If we allow Solara to succeed, we're no better than they were. We fight for a galaxy where every world has a voice, where the strong don't crush the weak. If we don't act now, the galaxy will descend into chaos again." As the Genesis and its fleet advanced toward Solara, Carter knew the gravity of their mission. Solara wasn't just another enemy, they were once allies, and turning on them felt like a betrayal of its own, but the choice was clear. Solara's rise to power would not just endanger Earth's future, it would threaten the future of the galaxy itself. The stakes had never been higher. On the surface of Solara's homeworld, Governor Virak stood at the window of his high-rise command center, watching the fleet of the Genesis approach. The moment had arrived. His private dealings with the Empire's remnants had given him the means to challenge humanity's newfound power. He had gathered enough strength to create his own empire, an empire that would rival even the greatest powers of the galaxy. "We've waited long enough," Virak said to his advisors, his voice cold. "Humanity has become too bold, too powerful. They think they can lead the galaxy, but they're not ready. We'll remind them of their place." One of his commanders spoke up, concern in his voice. "Governor, the Genesis is not a fleet we can easily defeat. Their warships are unlike anything we've seen before. They have the power to destroy our fleets in seconds." Virak smirked. "And that's exactly why they must be stopped. Humanity's power comes from their fearlessness. We'll give them something to fear. We have the Empire's loyalists, the resources, and now the power to challenge them. Let them come." As Solara's forces began to mobilize, Carter's thoughts turned to the coming battle. The fleet that had once been so united now found itself splintering. Allies that had once fought together now stood on opposing sides. The galaxy's future was hanging in the balance, and Carter knew that the way forward was not just about military strength. It was about showing the galaxy that humanity would not be divided. Sophia turned to Carter, her eyes filled with a sense of determination. "We don't just fight for Earth anymore. We fight for everyone who wants a future where they're free to choose their path. We fight for those who haven't had a voice for so long." Carter nodded, understanding the weight of those words. "We fight to show the galaxy that unity is stronger than division. Humanity's strength comes from its diversity, its ability to come together against all odds. We won't let anyone tear that apart." The battle for Solara began with the first waves of firepower from the Genesis and its fleet. Solara's forces, once thought to be powerful, now faced the full might of humanity's warships. But it wasn't just the weapons that set the human fleet apart, it was the resolve of the people inside them. Every ship in the fleet, from the smallest fighter to the largest warship, was driven by the same cause: to protect the future of the galaxy. As humanity's forces clashed with Solara's fleets, the skies above the planet lit up with energy blasts. The battle was fierce, but it quickly became clear that humanity's unity and determination were unmatched. Solara's forces struggled to maintain their footing, unable to withstand the onslaught of humanity's weaponry and tactics. But the real challenge came when Virak revealed his secret weapon, a hidden fleet of powerful warships built in secret and designed to take on humanity's forces. As the dark matter energy surged through Solara's ships, they began to turn the tide of battle. "We need to stop them now," Carter said through gritted teeth. "They can't be allowed to regroup." The final confrontation took place above Solara's capital, where the last remnants of the opposing fleet made their stand. The sky was alive with fire and smoke, the battle reaching its peak. Humanity had been pushed to the limit, but their spirit remained unbroken. As the Genesis deployed its full firepower, the energy beams from the dark matter warships tore through the enemy fleet, vaporizing Solara's remaining ships one by one. The blast was like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. In that final, decisive moment, Solara's power was shattered. Governor Virak, standing amidst the chaos on his homeworld, realized too late that the very power he had sought to harness would be his undoing. With Solara's fleet destroyed and their leadership dismantled, humanity had won another crucial battle, but the war was far from over. The galaxy, now fractured, would need healing. The struggle to unite a divided galaxy had only just begun. Carter stood in the command center of the Genesis, his gaze distant as he considered the future. "We've won," he said quietly. "But the true challenge lies in rebuilding the galaxy. One system at a time. We cannot allow ourselves to fall into the same divisions we fought against." Sophia placed a hand on his shoulder. "We'll rebuild. Together, humanity will lead, not by force, but by example. The galaxy has seen our strength. Now, they'll see our resolve." As the Genesis moved deeper into the galaxy, humanity's victory was not just a tale of survival, it was a story of unity, of standing together in the face of adversity. The galaxy had been given a second chance, and humanity would lead it into a future where peace, not division, would reign. The path to unity. Healing a divided galaxy. The aftermath of the battle had left scars on the galaxy. Humanity had emerged victorious, but the victory was bittersweet. Solara's betrayal had shaken the fragile alliance humanity had fought so hard to build, and though the Empire's remnants had been dealt a significant blow, the galaxy's future was still uncertain. With each victory came new challenges, both external and internal, and Carter knew that the path forward was far from clear. As the Genesis drifted silently in the vast emptiness of space, Carter sat alone in his quarters, staring out at the stars. The galaxy had been through so much: the rise of the Empire, its eventual downfall, and now the chaos left behind. Humanity had made their mark, but now they had to prove that they were capable of leading the galaxy to a future of peace and unity. He rubbed his temples, trying to push away the overwhelming weight of responsibility. The Genesis was humanity's greatest weapon, but it was also a symbol of what they had lost. The crew, the allies they had made, and the many systems that had fought alongside them had all endured great sacrifices. Now, it was time to rebuild, but rebuilding was never easy, Commander. Sophia's voice cut through the silence, her tone softer than usual. She stepped into the room, standing at the doorway, her eyes filled with concern. "We've done what we set out to do, but now we need to rebuild trust. There are still systems out there that don't trust us. We've won the battle, but the war for hearts and minds isn't over." Carter turned slowly, his face serious. "I know." Solara was a reminder that our fight isn't just with the Empire. The galaxy has been divided for so long, and now we have to make sure that the Empire's shadow doesn't fall on the future we're trying to create. Sophia stepped closer, her gaze unwavering. "We've shown the galaxy our strength, but we also need to show them that we're capable of leading with wisdom, with compassion. The galaxy isn't just going to follow us because we have power. We need to prove we're different from the Empire we fought against." As the weeks passed, Carter and his crew worked tirelessly to mend the wounds left by the war. The Genesis became more than just a warship, it became a symbol of unity and hope. Humanity's goal was not to conquer the galaxy, but to unite it. Every decision, every mission, every move they made was weighed carefully, with the realization that their true battle had only just begun. They needed to heal the galaxy, and that would require more than just strength, it would require trust. Humanity's reach extended beyond just the military. They had formed the beginnings of a galactic council, a platform for all systems to come together, voice their concerns, and work toward peace. Every planet that had once been under the Empire's thumb now had a voice in the future of the galaxy. The first few meetings were tense. Many systems were still uncertain. They had seen the Empire's betrayal, and now they feared that humanity might follow the same path. There were whispers of distrust, of uncertainty. Some systems wanted to stay neutral, unwilling to pledge allegiance to any one faction. Others were still hesitant, clinging to their old ways of thinking. One such system, a powerful trade hub known as Valoria, hesitated to join the council. Their leader, a charismatic but calculating individual named Senator Varon, had been a silent supporter of Solara. He believed in the old ways, the order that had been established by the Empire, and he wasn't ready to abandon it. "We need a new order," Carter addressed the council, his voice steady, filled with conviction. "One where every world, every system has a voice. The Empire divided us. It used fear, oppression, and control. We will lead through unity, cooperation and trust. This galaxy doesn't need another empire, it needs a future, and together we can build it. The council room was silent, the weight of his words hanging in the air. Varan stood slowly, his expression unreadable. He wasn't easily swayed, but there was something in Carter's words that gave him pause. He had seen the destruction that the Empire caused, and he knew that humanity had the potential to build something different. But the question remained, could they live up to the ideals they were now preaching? Weeks passed, and slowly but surely, the pieces began to fall into place. More and more systems came on board with the Galactic Council, and the fractured galaxy began to find a fragile unity. But even as peace began to take root, old enemies from the Empire's reign still lurked in the shadows, disgruntled remnants, smugglers, pirates. Those who thrived in the chaos were still a threat. But the difference now was that humanity was united, and they had the strength to stand together. The galaxy, though scarred, began to rebuild. The warships of the Genesis still flew, but they flew as protectors, not conquerors. The dark matter warships, once symbols of destruction, now stood as guardians of peace. As Carter stood at the helm of the Genesis, looking out at the stars, he could see the galaxy changing. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't without its struggles, but humanity had made its mark. The future was theirs to shape, and they would do it together. In the depths of space, a new era was dawning. The Empire's shadow no longer loomed over the galaxy. The people of the galaxy, once divided, were now united under the banner of humanity's leadership. The path to peace would be long, and there would be obstacles ahead, but one thing was certain: humanity had proven that, when united, they were a force that could change the course of the galaxy, and no force, no empire, no rebellion could stand in their way. The galaxy had watched as humanity fought for its place among the stars. Now, they were watching as humanity built something greater, and this time, it was a future worth fighting for.